under certain situations, we are setting ourselves up if we were to get some kind of illness or be exposed to a massive stressor, that if our bodies are saturated with these omega-6 fatty acids, it makes us a vulnerable target.
Yeah.
For example, that could be like if you get cancer and you have chemotherapy. Chemotherapy works by causing massive oxidative stress. You're going to have much more side effects. So these are things that like people don't think about that we think about. Like you want to metabolically precondition yourself before, you go into surgery or before you have cancer. And you could do that. You can massively do this by just changing your fatty acid profile. Right. And it does take time. It's going to take about 2 or 3 months to really shift that omega-6 to omega-3 ratio.
And it'll take longer than that for it to settle. In fact,
it could take years. I mean, it could take a while. Yeah.
Well, I was just, a few days ago, I was down at the medical school talking to Ganesh Holiday, and he was talking about this, how, it can take months to years to shift your omega-6, omega-3 profile after you start changing your diet. But the one thing he talked about that was fascinating and that I had not really thought about too much is that not just the metabolic health side, not just the cardiovascular risk side and all that stuff, but just general wound healing. When your omega-6, omega-3 ratio is too high and you've got an overabundance of omega-6s, your body's just sort of apparently generally not as good at rebuilding itself and healing wounds, whatever they may be.
Yeah, the wound healing is a big topic that we focused on for years. Actually, for 5 years, my student, Dr. Shannon Kessel, did a wound healing studies, and we did aged and young, ischemic versus non-ischemic. And I could say that ketogenic therapies are, everybody's talking about putting something on a wound to heal it, but when you change your metabolic physiology by being in a state of ketosis, that lowers blood glucose, elevates ketones, and reduces the inflammasome in a way that greatly augments wound healing in ischemic, non-ischemic, in aged, and in young. So that's a pretty profound statement that I think a lot of people don't know. But taking it another step further is what Ganesh was talking about too, is that, if we change the fatty acid profile, of our diet and we have less omega-6s, the wound healing part. Inflammation's a critical feature of wound healing. So if we take something, if we load up on COX-2 inhibitors like NSAID drugs or something like that, that can potentially attenuate or significantly reduce the healing response. It could also blunt skeletal muscle hypertrophy if you were to take it after training, like large doses of NSAIDs.
Yeah.
So that initial inflammatory response is what sets the stage for the downstream signaling for the repair processes.
Right.
But those repair processes cannot happen if you have chronic inflammation stalls those repair processes. And omega-6 is intimately linked to those chronic inflammatory pathways that blunt the wound healing process.
Yeah, I mean, this is another thing Ganesh was talking about too, and I'm glad you mentioned it because, I mean, throughout my whole life, I think there's a lot of people out there that think, NSAID, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory, good, and they take these things all the time, maybe even daily, but they can actually facilitate chronic inflammation. They can actually prevent your body from healing itself the way it should.